you very much for everyone who's still locked in and locked out with us today on Step Up with Simply Greg. As you already know, Step Up with Simply Greg is all about elevating the mind and empowering you to make a change one step at a time. So today, the topic of discussion that we are speaking about is the silent cries of a grieving widow. As I mentioned earlier on, we're speaking to our amazing guest, Dilys Sillah, talking about the release of her book, Not This Widow, and just also raising awareness on some of the challenges that widows go through after losing their husband, and while still being in a grieving process, yet going through the attacks, going through the accusations, the name calling, and so much more. So as well as grieving, they're also having to firefight at the same time. But to tell us more, once again, Dilys is here with us. So Dilys, thank you very much for obviously having shared so much on your personal journey that had led you to where you are currently at the present moment. Now, obviously, before that ad break as well, you were telling us a bit about your journey and how you felt vilified, vilified, should I say, within 24, 48 hours of losing your husband. But you also mentioned that there's many different things that you also identified that other widows are going through when you engage yourself with other widow groups. What are some of these, things that, you identified that were also generic?
I think what shocked me was this abandonment of people that have had the most devastating thing happen to them. Because sometimes when somebody passes away, you feel that you've been abandoned. I mean, for a long time, my language was like, Eddie left me. So when I put on my social media, because I knew a lot of people would reach out to me, and I thought, I can't cope. I just wouldn't be able to cope with speaking to anybody. I put it out on my social media that evening, and I think my wording was to the effect that Eddie left me. Because at that time, that's how I felt, that he has left me. So for others that are within that stage of their grief or shock, to have other people leave them, I think is so unkind.
Okay.
Because I hear a lot of people say, oh, well, I don't know what to say. We don't expect you to say anything.
Just be there. Exactly,
because there's nothing you can say. There is no philosophical whatever that will make it feel
explanation
better. Or there's no biblical quote that's going to make it feel better. There isn't. So just be there. There's a young girl that I met who is like my sweetheart, and we hadn't even been friends for that long. I mean, she's a lot young. She could be my daughter, but I met her at this event, and she was just amazing. And I like good people, so I just
connected.
Got her. I'm very much like that. And when she heard I'd lost my husband, she came to my house and she literally sat there for hours just holding my hand.
Wow.
For hours. I think people have to realize that there is so much going on with you. It's so damaging to the mental health of somebody who is grieving to feel that they have to wear a mask. And what I heard a lot of these women saying was, I don't want my friends to stop coming, so I pretend that I'm okay, but I'm dying inside. And then they come and release everything in those groups. And I've made it like my personal mission to say, don't do that. If you're left with one friend, then fine. If you're left with no friends, I'm here. I called one of these ladies Christmas Day, and she was in the house on her own via Facebook Messenger. It's like, oh my God, I didn't believe that you'd really call. I said, if I said I'll call, I'll call.
But how does the abandonment come about? Is it, like you said, because they just don't know what to say during that period of time?
Wow. I think people make it all about them. So people don't call, they don't visit. And I find it so strange, because for me, to God be the glory, it was the direct opposites, to the point where I traveled after the funeral. I was away for 5 weeks because every single day, without fail, for over a month, there were people in my house. I did not cook for I can't tell you how long. I found out that a lady in my old church was paying somebody to cook food and bring to me and my children. And I found out by mistake. But that's the level of love and care that I had. So I was very fortunate, but I realized that
other widows haven't been as fortunate. Wow.
It's very different. So it's that abandonment. And I think also I don't know what it is, but it's like families just rise up and just start to create this feud with this person. I mean, and there's something that I do want to mention, which, you know, I speak about it a little in the book. Sometimes we talk about marriage and we say things like, oh, marriage is just a piece of paper and all this nonsense. But you know, that piece of paper can really take care of your loved one. There's one of the ladies that is in a bereavement group. She was with her partner for 30-something years.
Yeah.
Because they were not married, she had no say in how his funeral was conducted.
Wow.
His estranged brother has his ashes and won't release them to her. A phone that she got for her partner, which was under her name, they won't release the phone to her. She said, but I got the phone for him, it's under mine. They're like, no, you can't have it. It's the spite and the wickedness that I can't get my head around, that why you would use that opportunity. So I would say that if marriage is just a piece of paper, then get it. And if you're not going to get it, make sure that you have a will written that is explicit in what you want to happen, that takes care of the person that you've lived with for however long, and make sure that she is protected.
You're very right, because these are things of which you don't expect to happen, like you said, in your scenario was unexpected. You know, and whilst there are married couples out there or not married couples who are together, they might be thinking, okay, we don't need to do this. But having that agreement beforehand, like you said, enables you to kind of be more exempt to all of these circumstances and confusion later on down the line.
I will share something that's in the book. So I got a message from my husband's cousin, demanding or telling me that I was causing confusion around my husband's funeral. This is a funeral that she's not paying for, by the way. And that I had no right to express any concerns about certain members of the family coming to the funeral. And then she went on to demand that I provide her with documentation, lasting power of attorney, to be precise, that I provide her with documentation to prove that I had the right to bury my husband as I so wished, and that if I do have that document, that I should provide it to her so that she can go and verify it at court. And I thought, you need to be able to make the distinction between somebody that just gave birth for your cousin and somebody that was married and with him for 17 years and looked after him for nearly 4 years. But the nonsense that was brought to me, I mean, clearly this is somebody that was not too bright. But just imagine I was not Eddie's wife.
Even worse.
Exactly.
Even worse.
So it's so important that couples have those conversations.
Yeah.
And I know that I do, it's not that I generalize here, excuse me. As a people, as Africans, let me at least stay in the African culture. We don't like to talk about death. Then you've got the Christian culture.
Yeah, on top
where
of that.
Exactly. So I do address this in great detail in the book, that, you know, how do we maintain our Christian faith, but at the same time are practical? So you have phrases in the, you know, verses in the Bible, like with long life have I blessed you, you know, you're 70. My husband didn't make it to 70 even, forget the 10. You know, people die all the time. Children die, old people die, you die of sickness, anything can happen. So we have to start to have those uncomfortable conversations, that how do we make adequate provision for those that we can possibly leave behind, you know, and make your wishes known. I mean, I talk about, like, for example, in Nigeria and in Ghana, and I believe in Sierra Leone, because my husband was Sierra Leonean, he wasn't Ghanaian like myself, that when we do the customary marriage, where we bring the drinks and pay the dowry and what have you, I do talk about maybe considering having a go-to person within the family, such that if anything happens, you don't approach the spouse directly, but you go to the appointed person. Because part of the issue that I had was, I had said to one of my husband's other cousins who was in the hospital after my husband was taken from home, I called him because they're very close, and I said, can you be the point of contact? But something just kind of, I think, broke down, you know,
along the way.
So people were felt that they could come to me. I don't think that that should happen. I think that there should be a intermediary that can relay messages or intentions or what have you, so that you don't have to deal with so much.
Because in that process as well, it's almost like they're putting their own emotional feeling of
100%.
Grief ahead of someone else who's also walked with that person. I mean, we understand that that's your brother, that's your uncle, that's this and that, but at the same time you have to respect that there was this other side of his life further from when he left that house, that he was connected to this particular individual.
And clear up the living room.
Yeah.
I had to do that. No one else was there to do that.
Yeah.
You can grieve in a way, arm's length.
Yeah.
For me, it's up close and personal.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my second child, who is the exact spitting image. It's nearly I think it's as bad as me and my dad, because my parents came over from Ghana a few days ago.
Yeah.
And my mum sends me a message and says, "Oh, we were at the airport and this lady says she follows you on social media, and she came to say hello to your dad. She said, you must be Dilys' dad." That's how badly I look. I'm my dad with hair.
Yeah.
Like so much. And my daughter's like that.
Yeah.
So I see this child every single day.
Reminded.
And as she's growing, I'm thinking,
wow.
It's such a shame that Eddie, your dad,
could not see.
And then there's also, excuse me, looking at your children crying. When looking at my son, looking at my daughter, they're crying for something that you can never give them. You can do absolutely nothing about it.
As a mother, as a parent, as anyone.
I'm telling you, and that is the most painful thing. So as much as you may be walking your grief journey, you're brought right back to point zero when you see your child crying.
Wow. You're just being real with your emotions as well. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That we have to start to be honest. And as Christians, it's difficult to, even when you're witnessing to somebody, it's difficult to tell them about Christ when they see you being so fake. So I think the bottom line is until we start to get real and say that, you know what, I feel sad. Yes, I believe my husband may be in heaven, but I'm broken right now.
Yeah.
I am in a pit right now asking God, why did you take my husband from me? That's where I am.
Yeah.
Allow me to be there.
Yeah, it's a process.
Leave me to be there. And if you're that spiritual, pray for me to come out.
Yeah.
And I would say, that's just how it's got to run. But all this, and I know that the Lord has strengthened me, and I was not in that place.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to pretend to be in that place.
That's it.
I thought, I don't want to hear it. In fact, I even did a Facebook Live about the phrase, "it is well," and how much I despise it. And interestingly, a lot of other widows said, "Oh my gosh, how I hate that phrase." I said, well, say something. Say something. Say it.
It's true. And one of the things that I picked up from you as well, after having spoken to you previously before the show as well, is that the fact that one of the things you didn't want to do is fake the process, because you wanted to go through every little part of it, because you don't want to go down 5 years down the line and be like, oh, you know what, now it's coming back or whatever it is. So you are someone who goes through the real deal, because if we're going to address this, let's address this rather than pretending to address it, and it just pops its head back up later on.
You're absolutely right. It was so bad that I thought, if I'm going to have to deal with it, let me deal with it today. I want to live. For tomorrow. That's it. I cannot describe what devastation means. I mean, I was so bad in the very beginning that my son had to come and sleep in the bed with me.
Wow.
And my son would say that I would be shaking in my sleep.
Wow.
I needed to go through it.
Wow.
Because I thought, I have to live at some point.
Yeah.
As tough as this is,
you have to go
I need to do it.
Yeah.
So when people see me and they're like, oh, you're fine now. I'm a very private person. I share what I feel will benefit others, not for sensationalism. And people don't see the days where you're in bed and you can't move. People don't see when you can't speak to anybody.
Yeah.
But people will see me
later on.
And maybe I'm going out and I've got my hair done and my nails done and what have you, and thinking, oh, she's fine now.
Yeah.
Grief is a journey.
That's it.
With no final destination.
Wow. I like that. Grief is a journey with no final destination. So every day is just a continuous process. Wow.
Absolutely.
Dilys, thank you so much for sharing so much and just bearing yourself vulnerable on the mic here and letting us know about your journey and the journeys of many other widows who've gone through similar situation as yourself. You also, obviously, the amazing author of this book, best-selling author of Not This Widow, which is an amazing book there, as you said, a memoir and at the same time self-help book as well. Very briefly, tell us more what we can expect from this book and how we can also get our hands on this.
I think this book takes you on a really nice journey from the beginning. It tells you about myself, my husband, how we met, and you really get a feel for who we are as people. And I felt it was necessary for me to do that, for you to understand the impact of one of us not being there, one of us being taken, and the aftermath. But then I also share in that book the stories of 4 other women, just to show that this is not just a unique situation. And I also give feedback on their situation as well. Just kind of have a little bit of a forensic look at what went on with them and what we can do to help. And then the remainder of that book is talking about how we manage grief. And as you mentioned before, talking about the practical things, life insurance, writing a will, making your intentions known, balancing culture and religion and practicality. So there's all those things that you can expect from the book, which is available on Amazon. It's on Kindle, Barnes & Noble, Waterstones, Foils. So you have no excuse not to get your
hands on that. So we'll put out the links to that as well, and also give one individual, a lucky individual, an opportunity to get a signed copy of this book, Not This Widow, to which we'll also be able to send out to you as well for free of charge. So just make sure you also connect with our YouTube page, which is Simply Greg Show. Connect with that, and then we'll also have a link on there for you to let you know how you can also get your hands on this copy. Until then, it's been a pleasure having everyone. Thank you very much for having listened to Step Up with Simply Greg. Once again, Step Up with Simply Greg is all about elevating the mind and empowering you to make a change one step at a time.